good.
Good. What's the date? Okay, well, we want to welcome everyone to committee meeting. Any additions to the agenda from anybody? Okay, and I guess we don't have any deletions, we'll just go, Councilor Fromm.
Can I just add, I want to just talk about the fireworks again, if you don't mind, just briefly.
3.7 will be fireworks, okay?
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, items for discussion. 3.1, Cobblestone Lane ditches. So I want everyone to follow along with me on this one. I got a call about a month ago, 6 weeks ago, to come out to Cobblestone Lane to take a look at a ditch at a resident's house. They're upset. It doesn't dry. It's muddy. They can't mow it. It's a little steep. They're upset. They want the town to do something about it. Had a good long visit with them for quite a while. This is why I remember me telling you 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago, that this is going to be our nightmare is this country residential. Anyway, I come back here and visited with administration about it. But before that happened, just to let you know, when I went to this person's place, I didn't know exactly where they lived, so I went to another person's place on Cobblestone Drive, and I just happened to ask where these people live, and I knocked on their own door, and I told them I was going there to talk to them about their ditch, and they told me this, that if people would have taken care of their ditches when they first got them, they wouldn't have the problem. There's a lot of erosion that's happened, and these people are complaining because there is erosion, and has sunken down, and it is a bit of a mess for them. And if you go out and drive by Cobblestone Lane, you can see across from where the church's ditch is a mess too. It's been eroded. You go farther south, where the people have just been building homes, it's very eroded. It's deep. There's quite a little channel now. They haven't been taken care of. The other ditches that are going to be made out there, they're eroded too. So we have a problem. We're going to have an ongoing problem. These people mentioned to me that we spent some money and fixed some other ditches up, which we did. So they want theirs fixed up because they're not going to take care of it. So anyway, I talked with Curtis about it, and this is why it's on the agenda. I really think we need to make a policy, a town policy, of what to do with the ditches out there. So when people have complaints, because we're going to get lots more,
It's not going to end.
we have a standard answer for them. And so Curtis, you want me to continue going on this? So
Whatever you like, Mr. Mayor.
okay, so Curtis and I and Hugh happened to be here, and we were just discussing it. I really believe the answer is, and we can have a good discussion on this. I really think the answer is to put some rock in there at their expense. And we can do it, but they're going to have to pay for the rock. And anybody can. Doesn't have to be. We're not talking big rock. We're not talking little pebbles. Just some kind of rock so that the water can flow. But they don't want to mow it. It's too steep, so they don't have to mow it. They can weed whip or they can round up around the rocks. It takes care of our problem because this is going to happen. More often they're going to be coming to us. And if we do this, if we continue to do this, and people have a problem with their ditch and decide it's too steep, or it's not drying up because they can. This way they can take care of it. They can weed whip it. They can mow it, however they want. But it's not going to come back on us. So as a policy, we make this policy. So what we were talking about in the administration's office was just we would just pay to do it. They'd have to pay for their rock. So they would bring their rock in, and the town could help them out by putting it. It only have to be like maybe 2 feet wide, maybe 3 feet wide. I'm not sure on the bottom of the ditch. But like the church, if you go drive, it's pretty steep over there. So once they decide to try to fix it, if they don't like it, they come to us and say, this is your problem, then we just say, hey, you can put rock in there if you want. At your cost, we'll help you. So that's an answer that we come up with, three of us, as we discussed it. Any discussion from you?
So you're just talking about the bottom of the ditch,
Just the
about
bottom of the ditch?
like 2 feet up each side? About?
No, just on the very bottom.
So the very bottom,
So
so
they can weed
2
whip,
feet total.
right, they can whip, it might be a little wider, maybe
Yeah.
2.5.
2.5
I don't know.
feet.
We're talking bigger rocks that the water can flow through, find
Yeah.
its own way through.
Yeah, not so small that the water's gonna take rocks.
Like you're talking rocks like this,
No, I'm talking bigger,
this,
yeah, probably like creek rock, right?
okay.
I mean, Curtis was looking it up, trying to find how much it would cost, I'm not sure if you still have that, Curtis. But it's.
Yeah, no, we would have to contact our aggregate providers and get an idea of what they have available. Just a couple of comments, I guess, for clarity's sake. The properties that property owners purchased right soon into the development and improved their properties, as Mary Pugh said, aren't as likely to have this problem. We have gone through and done some work on some ditches, but it wasn't at a great cost, and it was just putting it back to a grass standard. This is something that can be done administratively, broken to whatever direction council gives. But there will always be water in the ditch. That is how it was designed. If it's, not that there's always gonna be water, but the likelihood of water being in the ditch is high, because that's the intent. As long as there's water flowing, or it's a wet year, the likelihood of water in that ditch is gonna be great, especially when they're all on raw water and irrigating. So, I can understand the frustrations of not being able to necessarily make it nice and clean, but it is what they purchased, and they knew what they were purchasing. And I'm not sure it's necessarily our responsibility to do that administratively. However, if council wants to make this decision, then we'll happily carry out whatever direction you guys are willing to give.
So if I could talk for the homeowners, they did say that, they are not happy with it. I said, well, you did buy this knowing this was out here, and they, yeah, but they'd still like to have this and this and this and this. I says, yeah, but this didn't come with this and this and this. Anyway, they like some kind of answer. I've got a couple emails since from them, trying to know what our answer is. That's why it's on the agenda. I didn't think it should be on last week's agenda at council, because committees where we discuss. So anybody have any thoughts?
Well, like I said, when they bought the property, they knew the situation when they bought the property, right? So I don't think it should be any expense to us. Except for maybe we could do it for like the labor, I guess, and the time. But as far as the expense of the rock itself, I don't think it should fall on us.
I agree with you.
I agree, because it's never gonna end, because, yeah, we were out there too. And as that water flows, depending on how wet the year is, we didn't have that wet of a year. But if it's a really wet year and there's water flowing, it's gonna continually erode. So then even what we've done is gonna change over time, and it's just gonna be an ongoing problem. And we need to wash our hands of it
We need to make a
in
policy.
some sort of policy. Otherwise, we're gonna be doing this for the next 50
20
years.
Yeah.
Everybody will be coming in and saying, I
Everybody-
can fix it.
And we did that for them, and so you need to do this for us, and then what we did is gonna have changed, and then we need to do it again. Like, that's not really our job. Like, even in town, the boulevards belong to the town, but the people who own the property have to take care of the boulevard, right? So why are we,
This is because there's no curb and gutter.
well, I know, but they knew that when they lived there.
Councillor, anyone else have a comment?
I do. I had to pay for my own curb and gutter in front of my house, and I don't think, that's the solution to the water running down past my street, curb and gutter. They haven't got curb and gutter, but any solution, I think they need to pay for it. I'm not willing to accept responsibility for that based on the whole development design out there, and everybody should have known when they bought out there. So I don't mind, putting in rock that they paid for. I don't don't wanna accept any responsibility for the problem out there.
And we need to make a policy so that we don't have to keep going through this, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, I agree.
So are you saying the same thing then, Councillor Fromm? You would help them with the rock as long as they pay for it?
I don't mind going that far, but, you know, I mean, the town does have just about a monopoly on putting in curb and gutter, so maybe we could do that much for them, but they have to pay for it.
Councillor Peters?
Yeah, I was gonna say something similar to what Councillor Fromm said. You know, in town and other places out there too, we charge local improvements for certain things. I think this might fall in place with that. Do we know, Curtis, are there some pumps that run into these ditches?
There must be.
I don't
I'm just
know about
wondering
that.
if there's a reason why we're really getting water in these spots.
I don't 100% know the answer to that, I do not believe so, but I can't honestly answer that directly.
So
There's
when
gonna be water in the ditch just due to the simple fact that you're gonna have the rainfall, but it's raw water and most of those properties irrigate regularly, which is great, they look beautiful. But it's a downhill slope from the house typically to the culvert or straight to the ditch. And so you're gonna get any of that excess water once the soil is saturated, and there will usually be water.
So this certain residence, it's kind of gone a little bit lower than their culverts, so it's always muddy, it's always wet there. I'm sure they had me out in February or early March when it was a nice day, but I said that to them, but they said it's like that all summer long. And if it's the same this summer, they just said they'll let cattails grow, they're not gonna take care of it, which will look awful too. But anyway, I guess the engineer has been out there and talked to them lots about it. They have their own ideas, but this is just one, we're gonna get more, just like Councillor Harker agreed with me, we're gonna get way more. You got all those other roads and developments happening now, and it's all the same thing. We're gonna get more. Councillor Foss?
I was just gonna, I guess, maybe add my voice that I agree that we should have a standardized approach to this. A policy makes sense to me. And I think I agree with the sentiment from most of council that I'm okay with labor, I don't wanna pay for materials. I don't think we should.
I agree with that too. So, Curtis, how do we do that? You'll draft up a policy for next week and we can discuss it a little bit more and then vote on that?
Yeah, we can draft up a policy that we can bring to council for next week.
Any other discussion on this? I would ask each one of you to drive out there and go by there and just take a look at all the ditches and just see what they're like. You'll see it's gonna be an ongoing problem. Councilor
Curtis?
Peters?
Yeah, Curtis, if you were, maybe put a hold of the town guys, I think I've heard before that there is a pump running into those ditches, and that might be a reason why they're wet, and if we could confirm or deny, that way we have an idea of exactly where that water's come from, because we haven't had a whole bunch of water, and I know there's lots of practices where that water will run into, but some of those are pretty wet, and if you could check that out with maybe Gessie or Corey or somebody.
Yeah, I can do that.
And the people are pumping their sump pump into the ditches, it's never gonna be dry no
It'll
matter what.
never be dry. And then on a really, really wet year,
It's gonna be
it'll
worse.
even be worse. So I think the rocks are, yeah,
I do too, they can weed whip, they can round up at their expense. Anyway, okay, that's what I wanted to bring up, so if you can check on that, we can talk about that again next week and we come to a decision. Okay, my computer just shut off, so what's the next one?
Community engagement.
Community engagement.
I can speak to this.
Go ahead.
So we created a community engagement committee, I think almost 2 years ago, a year and change ago, as an ad hoc committee to advise council on path forward on engagement matters. The term of that committee ended, I think, in March, and so we've met a couple of times since then as a committee to discuss what the path forward was and what we would recommend to council. So So this is a draft of a bylaw that would establish the committee as a standing committee. I think the committee overwhelmingly supports the sentiment that there is an ongoing role for a committee like this, advising council and engaging with the community. The terms described here match the previous terms, essentially that it would have a similar role, but would be a standing committee in nature. The only change, we met yesterday, the only change to the document that you're looking here that the committee recommended was that there be a 2-year term established for membership from the public, so that there was an opportunity for more people to participate in it, and sort of built-in turnover to a degree. So I guess we're looking for feedback, direction from council, and if there's support, we would bring this back to a regular council meeting to go through the standard process for bylaw.
So where did this one come from? Did they tell you?
This draft bylaw,
Yes.
Abe drafted it. It follows sort of the standard template for our committees, with certain elements specified to this committee, so term, purpose, membership composition.
And the term would stagger, so half would be, so every year you get turnover. That's how it's gonna work, right, Councilor Foster?
I think so. I think
Yeah. So half go for 2
That's the
years and the other half for 2 years will be staggered, won't be,
Staggering it.
yeah, so you won't clear out the whole committee and get a whole brand new committee every 2 years.
And I think essentially we would advertise the vacancies. If people who were on it had a desire to continue to serve, they could reapply. But if there were new people that wanted to, you could evaluate those applications, similar to the way we did when we first created the committee.
I think it's a great idea.
I do too. I'm in favor. Just one quick question, Stuart. What is different in this bylaw than what you've already got and for terms of reference for your committee? Did you say, you mentioned there's only one thing you'd add, and that's the staggering appointments, but is there anything different than the current guidelines that the committee ran again, or under?
The only difference, there is one extra public seat, so instead of 5, it's 6. And then the primary difference is just that this would be standing, so it wouldn't have a fixed term, it would just be a committee until council decides to dissolve it.
I like it.
Yeah, I think it's great idea. Anybody not in favor of it? Then we will have it come next week to council.
Yep.
Okay. 3.3, Infrastructure Canada Grant Program. Curtis.
So as part of the federal government's budget announcements, where they're spending a lot of money over the next few years, there is at least two federal grant programs that I think we should be aggressively pursuing. I don't have all the answers, and I just wanted to bring this to kind of put up feelers to see if you guys are okay with this thought process. But the federal government has agreed to double the gas tax funding this year. They're going to be renaming it. That is if an election doesn't happen. If an election happens, none of this happens, and we'll wait and see what happens. But if it doesn't happen, we'll have another $250,000 of capital money that hasn't been allocated. The two programs specifically that I'm speaking with right now are entitled the COVID-19 Resilience Stream and also the Green and Inclusive Community Buildings Stream. The Green and Inclusive Community Building Stream is, I lost my section there. Was like $890 million that they've made available, and it's grant funding up to 80% of costs. And this is going to be part of the federal government's plan to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and carbon into the atmosphere by making buildings and infrastructure more efficient. The other one is the COVID-19 Resilience Stream, and it's been given $10 million. And the area specific is that ventilation improvement projects can be included. And so whether that's our furnace type infrastructure, or HVAC heating units to make them more energy efficient. We had a proposal a little while ago of something that was called UV Angel, which is kind of a ventilation and air purifying technology to kind of help reduce risks of pathogens in atmospheres that might be there if there was another pandemic going forward. And at 80% funding, $250,000 can go a long way. And so what we're recommending is we'll kind of wait and see how things go. If these grant programs are approved, we would be recommending that $250 plus any other money we can scrape out of our existing budget, even potentially debenturing some money to leverage 80-cent dollars, will go a long way in reducing the building improvement needs we have in our many building facilities in the future, that if we wait, we'll have to fund the entire cost ourselves. So I know it's not necessarily ideal, the concept of potentially taking out debt, given our circumstances, but long-term thinking what's best for the community and improving at least possible cost, this may be. And so just wanted to put that feeler out there, and we can obviously talk about what specifics are as we go forward, but I just wanted to know if you were wholly opposed or if there was appetite or to pursue or consider this.
Mayor.
Councillor Foss?
I imagine we've got a beautiful historic building, that we have a library and a theater. I imagine there is probably lots of opportunity to improve efficiency in a building like that, with some of this grant money.
Yeah, actually our provincial government representative with Alberta Historic Resources is the one that kind of put me in touch with this. He sent me an email that kind of brought me to speed on this grant program, because there is opportunities specifically with the community center, but definitely any facility that needs building improvements, which is practically all of them, that could benefit from them, there's an opportunity.
Well, it's probably something we, like you said, you should be looking into anyway. Getting back to this. Anyone else have any thoughts? Okay, I think you put out feelers to us. I think we're all interested in having to look into it more. Okay, we'll move on. 3.4, proposed 2021 wayfinding project. Is this you, Trey?
It is. Give me a second here and I will pull up my lovely presentation that I've spent days and days on just for your benefit. I'll find it. There we go. Okay. I'm hoping everyone can see that. How to get lost in Raymond. This is my perfect illustration of how visitors view Raymond. So, what do you mean when you need to go to 110 South and 200 West? Does anybody know where that is? I know where one person knows where that is.
I don't know what that is.
So, that's Ron Sauce. The key to this whole project is you must think like a visitor. So, as I present this and I get into some of the mapping and the buildings that we've all gone through, Stuart Foss and a few others sat down. We labeled and kind of brainstormed basically the attractions that we think we would want to be noted. We had to whittle that list down because there's so many things on there and prioritize what's most important. However, this is just a framework. We're happy to add, remove, whatever council wishes. but I want you to think like a visitor. And some of you that may be very hard because you probably grew up here. Many of you grew up here as babies or whatever, and so you have to think about how visitors come and approach Raymond. So, wayfinding is your approach, obviously, that's what I'm here for. So, think about this when we start this process. The main flow of traffic that enters town, the main entry points are coming down the soon-to-be paved 845. Perhaps they'll come down Railway Ave and then down Broadway, and they'll come in through Highway 52. Those are the key entry points to Raymond. We could label and add VSP signs or pool signs virtually at every road if we wanted to, but that's not the goal, and that's not what the funds that we have available for. So we want to make sure that as we're considering how visitors are coming into Raymond, that they will understand how traffic flow is going to work and how they're going to get to our buildings. So that's kind of just what we've got there. So sign placement is really important. So what we've got here, by and large, are they're standard markers, and I'll show you an example of the standard markers in a moment. And there's going to be large pedestrian markers. Now we're still working on design work on that, but they'll be fairly large, and they'll give us an opportunity to have something in our most high foot traffic areas where people can see a lot more detail. You have to understand when you're driving, you have very limited time to read a sign. So you can't label everything, and sometimes symbols are easier to read than words, right? So you'll see a mixture of both of those elements in these. Again, none of these are locked in. These are just as we've been working through this to try to figure out what the best point. So if you look at here, there's a number of signs that are on both sides of the roads in many locations. For example, Broadway and 52, Broadway and 52, they are going to hit basically every direction of traffic possible, other than north traffic. Okay.
So we don't want them to find their way out of town.
Yeah,
Right.
well, they'll know their way out, right? So we don't want them to leave. It's Hotel California rules.
Why not show them?
Yeah.
We want them to get lost.
We want them to get, we want them to stay.
That's what you're having.
Yeah, for sure. And again, keeping in mind that what we're trying to do here, a big goal, is to get that traffic off of 52, obviously, if that's what we want, and get them on 100 South, or 100 North rather. So 100 North has virtually 80% of what we're trying to target here, with the exception of the community center, museum, Corner Lake, a few other exceptions. But by and large, our biggest facilities are on that road. And then, of course, we want to feed the museum and these other places
So that'd
as
be like
well.
hospital, Victoria Park,
Hospital.
schools,
Well, hospital's on 52, right?
Well, that's
So
right, yeah. Okay.
they probably passed the hospital, and the hospital. I'm glad you mentioned that. Some signage is already provided by Alberta Transportation.
Yeah, Alberta Transportation.
Although
hospitals.
it definitely lacks. I'm not going to kid you.
Yeah.
However, there is some signage there, and we can add more later with the budget that we're talking. This is a great starting point as we get into next year. If we feel like maybe we need to tweak something or change something, we can. The signage that we've created is very modular, so it can be moved, changed, and updated at any time. Okay. So again, these golden diamonds are the regular markers for car traffic, and these stars will be the pedestrian traffic. So we wanted to make sure that we're including the walking path in this project. These will be small indicators, but they'll be something very obvious as you're driving by, something with some reflection on it, just to indicate that it's a walking trail. Again, basically at key points of entry at road accesses. So at south of Broadway, down by Corner Lake, that if you've ever driven down Cobblestone, you know that pathway is quite hard to find. So things like that. And so we've included walking paths in this, and so they'll be included in this rollout. But the design work is pretty basic. So if you look back on these numbers, and we'll send these out to you so you can get a look at them. These are all numbered. We've inventoried basically what every sign is going to say and what we're going to direct them to. Now, in some cases, some of these signs, what you might want to say, well, number 6, we want it to say everything down here. Well, you may or may not have room for 10 signs, right? You can't label everything. So if we're combining in some cases symbols, that helps. In some cases we can't combine a symbol for some certain facilities or assets. So this is an example of whatever number 1 was. And this is kind of what we're going for. These posts are natural wood. So right now, I probably need to double the budget because wood is so darn expensive. But we're pricing out, these are 10-inch posts, 8 to 10-inch posts, whatever we can kind of get our hands on. They'll be based in the ground with concrete. Our crews are going to do all the work with the basing. They'll require a little bit of maintenance over the years to keep the coloring. But we wanted to keep something clean and simple and something that has a bit of an organic feel to it, but not all iron, or something that has a bit more timeless look to it. So this is what we've kind of come up. We've worked with Total Impact Signs in Lethbridge to draft up a proposal. Each of those blade signs are 24 inches long. So they are, this image looks, they're pretty big. Yeah, they're pretty big. Again, we can change that, but they're 12 inches high, 24 inches wide. So they'll definitely be able to be seen by traffic, by road traffic.
Did you say 12 inches high?
12 inches
So
high.
12 inches by 20, okay.
Yeah, and these are steel. These are full steel signs. They will, if someone tries to take a baseball bat to them, they're going to get a surprise. Might be worth getting a camera for. So you'll see we've indicated certain things like the sandy dump. Corner Lake is one that we really want to feature as we make improvements. When these posts, these are empty, there won't be any signs on them. We don't have a way of unfortunately removing all of these signs, but just so you understand. So post number 2 will just have Corner Lake where number 2 was. This is where we get into some of the symbols. This post here is actually at the T intersection on Highway 52 in the hospital. So it's a bit of a tricky jag, if you realize. Some people, if you're near night, you can see VSP for quite a ways. However, during the day, that hospital just about hides the whole thing. It's very hard to see when you're even at that T intersection. So we've tried to use symbols more appropriately where possible. Downtown, again, we could label museum and community center and all these other things, but we thought let's just get them downtown, and then they'll have more opportunities to see more signs, right? So again, these are just a bunch of the in some cases we've put a golfer or Hell's Creek or golf course. We're kind of working through what would be best. It kind of depends on the signpost, to be honest with you. If it's a very busy signpost, we'll probably just use the picture of the golfer. If it's a small post, actually even like this one, we'll probably put Hell's Creek or golf course on it. This one's really busy. I think this one is at the corner of 52 and Broadway. No, which way is that, Town Hall? Yeah. So if you're heading west on 52 at the corner of Broadway, it gets really busy. So that's how these are going to work. This one's another real busy one. I believe that's on the other side, heading east on 52. I don't remember where that one is. So I'll look that up. Anyway, so that's kind of just the signs. I wanted to kind of go through that with you. Again, I'll just go back to the map for your reference. We'll get signs of the large pedestrian ones, or samples rather. We're still working on that, but they'll be able to feature a lot of smaller, if it's placemaking, horse statues, we can include a lot because people can just stand there and look at it, and there might be an opportunity to do more branding on that, but we wanted to keep these kind of, really specific to the point for drivers to make it really friendly for them. High contrast, high visibility.
Is there a priority which ones you're going to start with first? Is it the triangles?
I'm hoping to get them all done.
All these ones that you've shown us.
Yeah.
With that budget?
Because this is the basic.
Again, wood, the price of wood is throwing us for a curve. I started this process 2 months ago, and It was easy to get it in the budget. Right now, I'm not totally sure, to be honest with you. You know, the pedestrian ones, we may have to wait a little bit. I don't really want to. I was really hoping to get the pedestrian ones in place for July 1st. That's really my goal. However, you know, things will change.
Yeah, for sure.
I bought two 2x6 8-foots 2 days ago, and it cost me $75. Cedar 2x6s. So wood has gone up significantly, and it's just getting it. So originally I'd started this with a wood company, had all the supplies. So now I need to touch base with them and see. Now we've got all the planning, we know what we need, see if they still have stock. Thoughts?
Looks good.
Looks really good,
I
I
like
think. It's great.
Mayor?
Councilor Peters.
Yeah, Greg, I just caught you that you've been doing this project for a while now. Have you spoken to any of our contractors here with maybe prices or be able to get the materials quicker?
Yeah, we will. I anecdotally needed some pricing. I haven't firmed up anything with anyone. I wanted to get some pricing on the wood alone. Most of our crews' price will probably do the work, just because we've already got that stuff on hand. So we're hoping to do mostly just acquire the material, and because it's large, you're talking 10-inch, square. In some cases, 16-foot long because they've got to go, fairly deep. There isn't a lot of local sources for stuff like that, unfortunately, but.
Is the wood stained? Is it?
Yeah, it'll be stained and finished so that it's weather resistant.
So is upkeep every 3 to 4 years? You put new coat up, or how's it work?
Yeah. That's how it'll work.
So how above ground is it gonna stand?
I believe the road ones, the majority of them will be. I think we wanted 8 feet above ground. Yeah, that way trucks and cars can see it easily.
The pedestrian ones a little lower, maybe?
The pedestrian ones will be small,
Yeah.
like the walking path ones, or the pedestals. Pedestals will be big. They'll be wide. They'll be probably 3 feet wide, maybe 4 feet.
Okay.
Again, it's just we're probably going to have to manufacture that rather than have it solid wood. Obviously, it'd be a lot cheaper if we do it that way, anyways. So we're still working on design work on that, but yeah, they'll probably be 3 to 4 feet wide, and 6 feet tall, probably. Yeah.
Councilor Foss, you had a comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna say this has come a long way and matured a lot from the brainstorming session we did with members of the TEDC on this, and kudos to Greg for where it's at right now. I think it looks awesome, and yeah, I'm just happy to see this progressing because I think it's really important for our community to get wayfinding in place.
Me too, and I think they look very nice.
Thank you.
And durable.
I mean, there is maintenance,
Yeah,
but we didn't want to go with a totally manufactured look. That was a deliberate intent on our part. It adds a bit of beauty and nature to wherever those signs are going to be. At least that's my feeling. So
I like the fact that the signs themselves are steel, so that's what I meant by durable.
Yeah.
You know,
those signs, just about 50 of them will cost us about $9,000 in steel. It's expensive.
it's not cheap, but
It needs to
it would be
happen.
nice.
But how long do they say that the writing and stuff would stay
A long
on?
time.
A long time.
They'll be powder coated and everything.
Great.
So it's very much needed. I was in Devon and Beaumont and Leduc last summer, and that's sort of the way I got around, was look for swimming pool people or golf people. Or, I mean, that's the only way to get around. I'm not looking at addresses. You can try to get around Leduc or Devon or Beaumont.
In addition to that, just for council, sorry Stuart, in addition to that, I just want to know, both Curtis and myself have spent an enormous amount of time improving Google Analytics for the town, so that when they're searching things like Corner Lake, some people may call it Parrot Park, so we have both of those things. We obviously need to get some consistent language in going, however, we know what tradition is like, but we want to make sure that everything that we would search for Google, if it's community center or a library or Raymond Museum or whatever the case may be, that it's up to date, that has proper contact information. Google, it takes a long time to get that through, but we've spent a lot of time trying to make that happen. That way it supports what we're trying to do. It's not just wayfinding alone, it's going to be digital wayfinding as well.
Good.
Yes.
Councilor Foss?
was just gonna add too that, having these in place will allow us, those people who have facilities or have things at facilities in the way that we communicate about them. So for example, not all signs will say the museum, but if we can tell people it's in downtown and there's lots of signage to point to downtown, then, that's sufficient to get people into the right places. So anyway, again, kudos.
Good job.
I'll send this out to all of you if you had feedback, if you liked something, just please get back to me before we get motoring down too far.
I just a question, do we know anything about like when they put that 845 in? Will the provincial government like at least put a hospital sign, or do you know about any of that? Like is there,
I'm sure.
how do you request that, or I mean,
I think
do
that,
they think about that, or?
yeah, I don't know, I think Curtis and we can talk to transportation
Yeah,
to see what
I mean,
their
because if
plans
they're
are.
doing it, I mean, they're gonna have to speed limit signs and stuff, I mean,
Yeah,
we may as well request
Yeah.
a hospital sign,
You got it.
Okay, any other comments? We'll move on to 3.5, the Raymond Drive-In Nights. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, been a busy day. We have been excited to have Bon Jovi as our first show this year. I know I kind of tricked some of you into thinking it was a different band, but we managed to get one of the biggest rock bands in rock history to do a show on screen in Raymond. It's pretty amazing.
It's on the radio this morning.
Yep.
Now it's down.
So we've spent a lot of time trying to get some contacts going. We've updated our website just to reflect. I'm going to click this to reflect direction and traffic. Last year we did it mostly on social media. This year we're trying to really make sure that it connects with everything else that's going on in Raymond. Social media is good if you know what it is, but it's difficult to search or Google search things that are happening strictly on Facebook. So we want to make sure that all this is searchable. This is still a work in progress, but this would be the main point of entry that we're directing all of our ticket inquiries to. It gives everyone a chance to see what Raymond's about as they go buy a ticket. Now, Encore Live has their own, this is actually their link here. We've just kind of added in a bit of a stopgap before they go on past us, but we wanted to make sure that we're trying to grab as much attention as we can in advance. If you'll notice the pricing, just so that as you talk to people in Raymond, if they're looking at questioning things, again, this is per vehicle, but you'll notice the pricing has gone down from last year. In this case, for a car, general admission is $115 plus fees and taxes. Last year, it was probably about 150 or so. They had everything kind of American pricing, so it kind of worked a little bit differently. This year, we did add one new feature, and that is the VIP. We have blocked off the front 3 rows exclusively for VIPs. They can come in at any time. We've opened the gate. We'll open the gate early for them to come. They can come and get the best spot for the show if they're diehard fans. For the price of $239. But that will be limited to 25 spots in the front.
Are you getting interest on that?
Well, tickets won't go on sale until Thursday, so we'll find out. It is new, so we'll see. We've been working with local businesses, as food establishments, as well as food trucks. It'll be a busy day down there for sure. We'll certainly offer up the best that we can for Raymond. If not, we want people to be fed. So I just make sure that you direct traffic to there. Now, one thing that is really new this year, I want to make a point of knowing, is this blurb right here. So we have made a deal with Visit Lethbridge. This is the hotel group in Lethbridge to offer special rates. So if you click that deal, you'll see if you want to stay, for example, for this show at the Sandbag Signature Inn. It's for a king suite. It's only $99. That's the most expensive one on the list, as a matter of fact. So we've got some great rates to offer those that are traveling. We've again, we fumbled through things a little bit last year to see what was happening, and with the extent of travel that we noticed our patrons were doing, they need to know what's available and where to stay. Unfortunately, Raymond doesn't really have much for accommodations, but we wanted to try to offer something up.
That's a good idea to.
Yeah.
To incorporate that, 'cause guys
Yeah,
come
and give them a deal.
So does our bed and breakfast do anything?
I'm not even sure if they're really operating as a bed and breakfast right now. I know they've got lots of short-term leasing, short-term monthly, so. You know, if there's even one or two rooms, that doesn't still cut it, you know, like it's.
For sure.
With those accommodation deals, do we get any kickback from that at all? No?
But we do get their advertising,
So
so
we do get our.
they have been very busy advertising our show. If you go strictly to visit Lethbridge on their social media and on their website, they did all of this for free. So we're taking advantage of their resources. And
Some of them look as good as me,
I was gonna say, they're not now.
maybe a little, maybe a little.
Hey, I spent this morning at Community Pictures Lethbridge meeting, and they were thrilled about it. I cannot believe what a good response I got. Of course, there's 12 board members from all over southern Alberta, and I got a lot of really like big questions after the meeting. Even people emailing me and saying, "Hey, is that per car?" or like wanted to know all the details.
Yeah.
So I think they're coming out to us, and luckily today was different than people out, but they're just very excited about it. So
Awesome.
neat to see that kind of reaction.
Yeah, it's I think I did an interview with the Herald, so it was the Herald and Medicine Hat News, and the same interviewer, the reporter rather, that interviewed me, interviewed the lead guitarist on Bon Jovi about 2 hours after he interviewed me. I felt like I was in pretty good company. I was really glad I got first, because I mean that's where the most important people go.
Yeah,
But anyways,
Yes.
they're generating a lot of publicity off of this. In some cases, in some states, they are doing it indoor theaters, but obviously that's probably Texas, Florida, and I don't know where else it would be.
so, and you've increased the number of spots that we have.
175 spots this year with COVID distancing. So we're still, and I want to make that like ever abundantly clear, because the next topic of the conversation on agenda will not be near as fun or pleasant, but we need to make sure, and we will be ensuring that people are safe, that they'll stay in their vehicles, other than to obviously buy food or go to the washroom, that sort of thing. But to really just, we want people to have a safe time when they come down. We have to operate that way to maintain the drive-in. You know, there are rules in place from AHS under public health. We are operating under those rules. That's why we can have an event like this, because of the basically containment or confinement that your vehicle offers. So it offers a lot of protection.
Is there one or two shows?
Just one.
Just one? So are there gonna be speakers again outside, so?
There'll be just two, yeah, aiming kind of to the field, not to the houses to the east.
So starting at 8, it's gonna be done
Well, the show starts at 9.
mountain.
Yeah, Mountain.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's because it's early May yet.
So we done about 7:30?
Yeah.
That's right.
I'll probably get my one phone call.
You'll always get a phone call. I mean, that's the nature of the beast. But you know, I just want to say, you know, based on our projections, based on what we're putting into this, we've struck up an internal employee kind of working group to make sure everything is running smoothly. There's going to be more hands on deck, more employees helping, and even then, this more than covers our costs to meet run the events. And to have a tourism event, and I can't underscore this enough, to have a tourism event like this so successful, so fast, and actually generate profits is quite something for a small community. So I hope that when you get those phone calls, you bear that in mind, because it's a challenge, I know, but it's meeting an awful lot of metrics, and it's meeting the ire of a lot of communities in southern Alberta who simply can't have a show like this because we have the license. So
It's brilliant. Good job.
Really good,
Awesome.
really great.
Okay.
So if you have these during the year and they keep, you know, almost full capacity, is there a profit to the town? So we'll appease people by saying, you know, hey,
Yes.
this is keeping your taxes low.
yeah, we don't want this to be supported from taxes. I mean, I don't think
Yeah,
anybody here
no.
wants that. I mean, you could. I mean, certain tourism initiatives, you know, like Chautauqua, for example, was definitely funded by tax.
Yeah.
You know, if it's a priority of council and you want to see it happen, you make it happen. In this case, I don't think that's necessary. We have engaged a couple of tourism groups to support us. They all want in on Raymond's success. The fortunate part is our success last year has now bred some competition. We have 3 venues in Alberta this year doing concerts as well. 2 of them are the same vendor that actually was responsible for our technology last year in Red Deer. So he has set up his own venues in Red Deer and Edmonton. But he's assured us that he'll stay out of the Calgary South market.
Red Deer's a long ways away.
Red Deer's a long ways away, yeah,
It's a long
for
ways
sure.
away.
And we only have 175 spots. I mean, let's face it, we'd love to be selfish and say it's just Alberta, but why do that? We're happy to share if it doesn't come at a cost for us. So.
Well, good job, Greg.
Awesome.
Any other comments? Okay, let's move on to COVID update. That must be you, Curtis.
So this is just, we did get a phone call from Alberta Health Services. They have been, and we let council know this last little bit, that they've been receiving a number of complaints from residents or people in the community about people or businesses not following COVID guidelines. And our response has always been, appreciate your input. Please make sure to let AHS know on the complaint line, because that's kind of your avenue. It has escalated to a point though where I believe as of yesterday, AHS can and will be fining businesses that are not enforcing their employees to have masks on and to be following those. To my knowledge, they're not going after individuals because that would be problematic. But for those organizations, it is something that is required, and if they're not being done, they could be subject to a fine. And we have been notified by AHS now. So there's been enough complaints where Raymond is in, I want to say, a spotlight or a focus or the crosshairs, but it is something that needs to be aware of. So publicly, we just would like everyone to know if you are a business or an organization, churches, hospitals, any of those types of schools, town, any of those kinds of entities, employees, those facilities as they're working in an indoor space definitely have to be masked. And so let's all not need to have those kinds of situations, hopefully, and let's just all buckle down for a little bit longer, hopefully, and we can get through this. So.
Okay. Any comments on that? We'll move to closed sessions. We need a motion to go into closed.
I'll move.
Councillor Heggie, all in favor?
We had 3.7.
I'm sorry,
What?
I'm sorry, yeah.
Oh, update.
On the fireworks, Councillor Fromm, sorry.
Just an update, and I'm gonna make this long, very, very short, but I've had a good meeting with our fire chief, and I've had conversations with Karen Weil, and with Mike Smith, and we're gonna have 2 shows this year. Mike Smith is gonna do his show on June 30th, and the town is gonna do ours on July 1st. And we are going to do it from the fairgrounds. So I just need to let the fire chief know about how much he can spend so that they can go ahead and get them ordered. So if maybe Curtis will get back to me on how much we spent last year or how much we're willing to spend this year or whatever.
Yep.
Then I'll pass it on to Doug or however it gets in his mind, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
And if you have any details of why that came about, feel free to ask me. I won't bring it up tonight.
2 fireworks shows is better than 1. That's great.
Yep, nothing wrong with that. And everybody's okay. We still have a great relationship with Mike Smith, and I hope a great relationship with the fire chief and our firemen.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks for the update. Okay, now I'm entertain a motion to go into close. Councillor Heggie, all in favor? Okay, good. We're now going into closed. Okay, we have a motion to come out of closed by Councilor From, all in favor? Okay, this meeting is adjourned, thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Night,
Stay safe, Ron.
get better, Ron.